Hello, my spooky friends. This is John, your host at Dairyland Frights, the paranormal podcast that covers everything creepy, mysterious, and spooky in the Midwest. And again, guys, my spooky friends, guys and girls, another great guest on. I have on the podcast today Brandon and Mitch from Haunted US. Welcome.
Hello. Thank you for having us.
Hey, great to have you guys. So one thing about, and I'll let them kind of break the news on this, that with Brandon and Mitch, I found them on Instagram. What I really loved about them, they have, and please guys, fill in the blanks. They have this great site of these haunted locations, and you can basically go and use a drop-down menu, and you're like, I wonder, I don't know, like me, Wisconsin. Let's see what they have, and kind of go through there, look through there. So it's a really nice way. They did, thank God, rather than you go and researching like I have to do. And you're like, I'm going to pull your hair out, what's left of my hair, trying to find this. This is like, oh, great, I can check it out. And these guys, I've seen so many different things. You guys have supported and everything. I said, I got to get these guys on the podcast. So why don't you talk a little bit about Haunted US to my spooky friends and kind of give them an idea what you guys are about?
Yeah, absolutely. So we started in 2020 with, a wish and a prayer, making it happen.
We all do.
We explore American folklore specifically through the lens of hauntings. We find those to be absolutely fascinating. And so we travel the country. We do really extensive research, like you were saying. One of the other bents in there is we love photography. So we try to make sure that the photographs we capture of these places are really high quality and are engaging in a way that you don't usually see. And the other thing is we like to partner with locations. It's not just about sharing our version of their story. It's about letting them take hold of how they're represented. I know we currently are in a space where there's a lot of kind of sensationalist media around hauntings. Yes. And we find ourselves in that spot where, specifically, I can think of an example. We were talking to the previous owner of the Villisca Axe murder house just before our article went up, and she was really upset. She was like, you guys just take this information, you just throw it out there. And, we got on the phone and we talked for a little bit. And I was like, well, what parts of the article are upsetting you? And she's like, well, it's not your article. Your article's great. And it was like, I get it. Like, it's all the other stuff that's out there, all the people shouting demon and everything.
Mm-hmm.
So we love to really work with locations and make sure that their representation is what they want it to be. And that we're getting the facts right. Mitch is an incredible researcher, and he finds these historical facts about these places that boggle my mind. And it's awesome to be able to stand behind those at any given point.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I love that. Just one thing, to sorry to interrupt you, Brandon, but one thing I want to talk about with that is that's what ruins it up for all of us, right? Who truly believe in the paranormal, who truly want to help people, truly want to get the true, because the true message is scarier than anything else. Like the Villisca Axe murder house. I've been there 2 times. It's about 4 hours away from where I live. I just talked to some paranormal investigators just last month who visited it. And, it's just, scary enough. Like, why do you have to say, there was a demon hiding in the closet and it jumped out at me and it, oh, come on, man. Like, stop it.
And here's my YouTube thumbnail to prove it.
Here's that. See that little blip? See that thing? Yeah. It looks like your friend. He's wearing a baseball cap. Whatever. I mean, come on, guys.
Hey, man, demons can have style, too.
Demons can wear fashion. Come on. Just went to the Gap. I just got this new shirt. Come on, man. But I totally get what you're saying. And what else have you guys been doing? You guys kind of gave me some offline stuff that you'd like to share with my audience that's coming up. I'd love to bring that out here.
Yeah. So we are about 2 months out from releasing a podcast. Not to come into not to get into this and immediately be like, John, we're your competition. Why are you having us on here? But we are going to be releasing a podcast, and Mitch and I actually just finished up putting together our first book. So that's exciting. Mitch, do you want to talk about the book?
Sure. The book is focused in on the state of Wisconsin, not to give too much away, but it's got a unique structure to it that I think a lot of folks are going to like, and a lot of folks out there who really want a road trip to haunted places like we do. Hopefully it'll make travels through Wisconsin not only easier, but also spookier and more fun. We have a lot of great location features in there. Some have been around for a very long time. The lore has been around for a very long time, and others are pretty brand new as far as their paranormal claims go. So I'm really excited to get out there and report a lot of great information about the places that we already know and love as spooky people looking for haunted places, as well as brand new places that people can explore and learn about for the first time.
Yeah, that's so. I've lived in Wisconsin all my life, and I've traveled a lot of different places. And Wisconsin is always, to me, really interesting because we have such a variety. Did you guys have a favorite? Did you guys in your book? Did you have that was probably the favorite?
That's interesting. I guarantee we have two different answers on this one. Mitch, do you want to think on yours? I think I have mine ready.
Yeah, I have two pretty distinct favorites, I'd say.
All right, go for it.
You want to share yours first? Yeah.
Nah, go for it.
All right. One I enjoy because it's a pretty new place as far as haunted claims go. It's the Lincoln Tallman House in Janesville, Wisconsin, where I'm from, born and raised in Janesville. And I've always known of this house. It's been a very popular historic museum for my entire life, and I always wanted to get in and see if it was haunted. And I emailed them and called them and followed up with them and got told, no, we're not going to do that. We're not interested in doing that right now. It's not the direction we want to go. For 12 years is how long I kept up with that.
Whoa!
And then finally.
When he'd broken their will entirely.
The stars aligned.
When he was sleeping outside in a tent.
Yes.
All right, here, guys.
Finally, they took pity on poor old us and let us in to explore. And
excellent.
It was quite the paranormal adventure, and I was very excited to report about it and write an article about it, and now feature it as part of the book. It's a great place, very well maintained, lots of great history, and some profoundly spooky things. Mm-hmm. And the other one is a bit more well known, at least regionally. It's the Mabel Tainter Theater up in Menominee, Wisconsin, further north, closer to the Twin Cities. And the claims are quite interesting, but what strikes me most of all about the Mabel Tainter and why it's always on my list of favorite places is just how well historically preserved it is. All the seats are original, the curtains are original, the railings are all original. Moreover, the water fountains are all original. The pipes to the water fountains are all original. Yeah. And what I always love to point out is that a couple of the working light bulbs over one of the fireplaces are also original. That's about a 150-year-old light bulb.
Gee, mine won't last a week.
I'm saying, yeah, they built them different back then, and these things they'll turn them on and show most people, and they shine. They shine like they're not 140 years old.
That's awesome, Brandon.
So now I'm gonna have to admit that I immediately regretted letting Mitch go first because Lincoln Tallman was my number one. So I'm gonna switch it up. I will say my number one was Nelson's Bitters Pub up in on Washington Island. Yes. It is such a cool place, such cool history. The stories are pretty wild, and going up there for photos, you really get a feel for that place. The second you walk in, it feels like a spooky place, even though it is very much a really good food joint. It just feels eerie and in the best ways.
Yeah. Yes. I've been to all those places. I totally agree with you. but I will add one more.
Sure.
The Pfister Hotel, Milwaukee.
Yeah.
That is when grown men, baseball players, so, with the Milwaukee Brewers, if you're into baseball at all, doesn't matter if you're not, they'll have the visitors stay there. And guys, grown men, will be like, nope, not staying there. Not going to do it. I'm not staying there. Because there's famous stories of, there's Bryce Harper, who plays at the Philadelphia Phillies right now. He was there one day and he was getting his stuff ready, and he comes out of the bathroom and he's like, I just put it down on the bed and it's gone. He's like, okay, I'm tired. It's been a long road trip. Goes back into the bathroom, comes back out. There it is. He's like, okay. And then he's like trying to find stuff, like trying to find like a comb or trying to find his wallet or whatever. Again, can't find it. And he's like, what is going on? And then he goes downstairs, and people are like, "Oh yeah, it's haunted." Yeah, but they don't come out and say it's haunted. They kind of circle around it. They go like, "Yeah, yeah," because they're not specifically supposed to say it's haunted. But sometimes it slips out. But you're taught. I talked to one of the staff there, and they're like, "We're not supposed to say it's haunted because it freaks people out." And I'm like, "Are you kidding me? That's why people come here." Guys, it's a gorgeous hotel, but pretty much you go into certain rooms, you will have experiences from usually TVs turning on to things go missing to voices, footsteps, but nothing really bad. There's never been anything terrible. Maybe something that terrible happened in the past in history, but typically nothing recently. So, yeah, that's one of my favorites.
Yeah, absolutely. I know when it comes to places that are not necessarily interested in advertising their hauntings, we actually ended up putting a special note on the website for places that are like, hey, probably don't go here and start asking about ghosts. And the Pfister was actually the first one we did that had that label on it.
Yeah, I saw that. Yes. Yeah, because they will skip around it. They'll be and then you'll be like, hey, where's my cell phone? Like, and you shouldn't blame the maid because you maybe think it's the maid got, you know what I mean? And then they got to be like, right? It's just a weird conversation. You're like, did the maid take my cell phone or not?
Totally.
It's like this weird thing.
Yeah.
And something we talked about offline, you guys don't have Summerwind Mansion under your haunted US under Wisconsin.
No, we don't.
My friends, why you don't have it.
Yeah, so it's actually the same reason we don't have LaBelle Cemetery on there. We focus mostly on locations that are really well defined. So like a building or a campus. When it comes to something like Summerwind, which is at this point really just the foundation of a building out in the woods, we find that it's a little hard to say like, you will walk into this area and it will be haunted versus like, hang out in the woods for a while, you might see something. So we focus in very much on those more concrete factors, if you'll pardon the pun.
Yeah, it totally makes sense. A funny story about that, I was telling these guys offline, if they ever did want to, Brandon and Mitch, if you ever did want to get hold of somebody, I could put you in touch with them, who were able to go through there. They've been trying for years to restore it, but everybody's like, from the stories of like, construction workers saying their tools go missing, they hear footsteps, and I'm like, well, yeah, but there's nothing there right now. But still people are like, if I start building and then the construction crew like, screw this, I'm out of here, right? And then you're kind of like, what are you going to do? You got a half a building up and you can't really rebuild it without some good craftsmen. But one of the things I was telling Mitch and Brandon offline was one of my friends from Badgerland Legends, he was on doing an investigation and he was sleeping one night and he had all these weird, he put his tent out there on the grounds and he had all these weird dreams. And we were joking about like there's an Indian sitting next to him, Native American, sitting next to him, smoking a pipe or blowing smoke in his face or something. Like all these weird hands coming up from the ground or whatever. He said, yeah, I just had these weird dreams. And then when he went to the leader of the investigation team, they were like, this is one big Native American burial ground, and you were sleeping on one effigy mound. And he's like, I was? And you're like, yeah, you were. And he's like, no. Well, long story short, he moved his tent.
Yeah.
And found something, but it didn't matter because the whole Summer Wind is basically a Native American burial ground. And that's the other thing too, is because you can't build certain things without someone coming in and be like, nope, you can't build there. We found, artifacts. Nope, you can't build there. We found an artifact. So that's been I totally get you. You don't want people, and it is private property, my spooky friends. So I don't get anyone arrested going on there and then blaming me and Mitch and Brandon that we told you could do it.
Whoa. We're not complicit in this at all.
Yeah.
It's suckered you guys right into a lawsuit.
Great. Now we're accessories.
Now we're accessories. Come on. It's good publicity for the book, guys. Come on.
Oh, there you go.
No, but anyway, yeah, so it is private property, but if you do go into town and ask, most people would be, do not go on it because people have had like curses and all this stuff happen to them. So it's kind of like, leave it alone. Let someone else go on there who's brave enough and willing to deal with the ramifications of the law and the evil or whatever, possession.
Evil spirits and litigation.
That we are not a part of. Now we got to get lawyers, guys.
Dang.
So, but
I thought I was going to get out of this without any legal action.
No. And anything with the podcast too, I love it. I love that you guys are putting it out there. And please, I'd love to be a guest on there if you guys want to pick my brain for Paranormal Wisconsin. I'd love to do that. So let me actually start out with this, guys. You're doing a lot of work behind this. You must love it. So what interested you in the paranormal? Mitch, Brandon, whoever wants to start, like why do this?
Yeah. So I grew up in a haunted house. That's what got me started. I
love it.
Into the paranormal not by choice.
Okay, tell me more.
Yeah, so it was my mom's childhood home. And about twice a week, I would hear somebody knock on my door. I assumed it was my sister. Somebody knock on my door and run down the hall to my sister's room. So obviously it's her. I'd go, bang on her door and be like, why are you doing this?
Yeah, right.
And years and years later, like we're in our 20s and it's Christmas or something, my sister and I are chatting and I'm like, oh yeah, remember when you used to knock on my door and run away? And she was like, seriously? I never did that. I never understood what you were on about with that. And I was like, oh, wild. And my mom, who was with us, goes pale. And she's like, somebody was knocking on your door and running away? And I was like, yeah. And she said, the exact same thing happened to me when I was a kid in that same house.
Oh.
So 30 years apart, same experience in the same house.
Interesting. That's amazing. Now, was that your first paranormal experience, Brandon?
Yeah, it sure was. Not the last, which is
okay. Yeah. So, what I got you? Why don't you talk about your real first paranormal experience, and then Mitch, I'll get to you with that too. So.
Yeah. So that was my first one.
That was your first one. Was that? Did you have any idea of what was going on other than just your sister playing?
No,
right?
I had no idea whatsoever. There were other kind of strange things that would happen in that house. The lights would flicker every once in a while. We actually had an old freezer in the basement. One of those old like chest freezers from the 50s where you have to like ka-chunk and pull it open and it's 100 pounds. Yeah. And that thing used to just like slowly creak open every once in a while. I'll tell you, if it weren't for the fact that the Nintendo was down there, never would have been in that basement. They lured me down there.
In other words, it was big enough to fit a body in. Let's just say that.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah.
Those refrigerators scared. My grandma used to have one too, and I always just like, man, you get a body in here. So like, this is crazy, Ugh.
Totally.
Mitch, how about you? What interests you in the paranormal? And then we'll talk about your first paranormal experience.
Yeah, so similar to Brandon, those stories are kind of intertwined because I did not grow up in a haunted house and I didn't really grow up thinking about ghosts at all.
Hmm.
I would hear tall tales about the ghost janitor in the elementary school, which of course has no basis in fact, but
No.
people will tell ghost stories,
Yeah.
and that's always what I thought they were, whereas they're just pieces of fiction that people will repeat over and over to each other just for fun. And it wasn't until high school where I ended up moving in essentially next door to a friend of mine whose family was all ghost hunters. That's what they did in their free time. Essentially, the whole family went out ghost hunting.
That's awesome.
So after a few months, they invited me to go along, and I thought, well, I don't have anything to do on this, on this Saturday in southern Wisconsin. So I'll go ghost hunting. And we went to this old house turned bar and restaurant turned empty abandoned building in Beloit, Wisconsin, which is right on the Illinois border, basically. And I watched them do their ghost hunting thing. It was all foreign to me. I didn't even watch Ghost Hunters or Ghost Adventures at the time. So I had no idea what was happening going in. So I was just kind of watching these people do this. And they would set up their EMF detectors all throughout the space. We were up on the second floor, and it was just a big dining room, so it was just one giant room. And they would set out their EMF detectors, one in the far corner, one over here, and they were all old school EMF detectors that I don't see anymore. And gosh, I miss those things. But the kind of K2s that you had to stick a nickel in to keep on because the button wasn't actually a button. But they had them all spread out, and then they turned on their EVP recorders, and we got on with the night. And my first purportedly paranormal experience happened a couple hours after we started. We all heard this high-pitched whining noise coming from somewhere inside this building. Like, it was close, but nobody could really figure out where it was coming from. And somebody said it kind of sounds like the tri-field meter, the old analog tri-field meter. Some of them had little alarms on them that would be this kind of electronic whine.
Sure.
So we all rushed to the far corner where the tri-field meter is, and everybody's flashlight is on it, and it's not ticking anything. It's not picking up anything, and this noise is still going on. And it kind of, I don't know whether we finally figure out what it actually sounds like or the sound changes, but it kind of morphs into this distant screaming sound, and it persists onward from there for about 30 seconds as we search for it, and then poof, it's gone. And we searched all those pretty much 45 seconds it was happening for its source or any explanation, and could not find it. And so, needless to say, I went back out ghost hunting with them again.
Yes.
And we went back to this building, probably 6, 7, 8 times before it was finally torn down. And it was always interesting. Something weird was always happening. And so that's the experience at that place in particular was the thing that really started my interest in the paranormal with my very first paranormal experiences.
I love it. So, Brandon, I'm going to start with you. I've had numerous people who have haunted homes, and it always blows my mind that you would stay, number one, that your mom would stay. Now, everyone I talk to says the same thing, and just, tell me if I'm right or wrong. This is what I've gotten from people. Numerous people have been in this haunted house. They said, first of all, it's not like in the movies. It's not happening all the time. You don't have skeletons coming out of the floor. It's demons, jumping on your bed or whatever the hell. It's like little things, cupboards opening, right? You know what I mean? So it was kind of like that, right? You didn't have experiences all the time, did you? Or was it?
No, the demons only jumped on the bed every once in a while. We only had a few skeletons. Yeah. No, it was very few and far between. I mean, and being that I was a kid, I was probably 9 or 10 when we were there. We moved out when I was about 11. So I didn't have a lot of like experience with the paranormal to say like, oh, I think I'm being haunted by a ghost. I was like, oh, that's weird. Those lights flicker sometimes. And it wasn't until years later when I was like, wow, this is a really pretty textbook haunted house.
Yeah, right. Yeah, and that always amazes me because I had people tell me like their parents didn't say anything until they moved out of the house. And this one woman was telling me like, well, we moved out of the house because we got sick of the haunting. And then she was like, what? And we're like, so I was right, because she would always come up, Dad, there's an old man sitting in the corner of my room. And they're like, nah, you had a dream. Dad, there was on my rocking chair in my room, there's an old man rocking. Nah, you're having a dream.
This is classic parent behavior. They just don't want to spook the kids, so they have to put up with it.
Right? Yeah. And so she just went on with her life going, I'm having a lot of weird dreams. And then it's like, spill it, Mom. And it's just like all this stuff coming at you. She's like, I knew it. But she became
and here's a picture of the man from your dreams.
Yeah, here he is. This is Grandpa Joe. Great. Grandpa Joe was kind of a jerk, so I'm glad, all right, she became a paranormal investigator.
Nice.
So, Mitch, I want to start with you because I do a lot of research. And this has happened to me once. I want to see if this ever happened to you. I was doing research one night on this one, a demon house in Indiana. I don't know if you guys ever heard about it. It was on Ghost Adventures.
Oh, yeah.
What I call bagel bites. I'm not a big Zach Baggins fan. If you guys are, that's fine. Zach Baggins is crazy. He's driving me nuts. Anyway, went in there. If you can go on and look at it, it's called Demon House in Indiana. I don't know whether to believe it or not because they tore down the house. But anyway, I was doing some, it's a crazy story. And like cops have been there and have validated stories. And there's so much validation of the story, yet there's no evidence. So I'm like, okay. And I was doing research on it. And at my door, I could hear like footsteps coming up to my door in my office. And I had the door closed. And I was thinking it was one of my kids just messing with me. My son likes to like come up to my door and he'll knock on my door. Hey, Dad, you want? But for whatever reason, I didn't want to open that door. I was like, there's something behind that door that if I open it, now maybe it was something because I'm thinking demons and reading these stories that are just wow, unbelievable. But has that ever happened to you, Mitch, where you've been researching something just felt like the hair on your neck kind of stood up? And you're like, man, there's something weird going on here.
Not usually, but there were a few instances of, maybe they were interrelated, maybe they weren't, kind of things. And generally when that would happen is when I am reviewing things I've researched at the actual location.
Oh, okay.
So if I'm working with people, what I usually do when Brandon and I go out on our various excursions to visit places and go ghost hunting, he gets his photos and his videos, which he needs his time to get them perfect, and they always come out great. And in that time, I am usually at the library, digging through dusty old tomes about whatever building we might be at, finding photos, information about people who were important way back when, whether or not there are current claims about them or not. I want to know about them.
Yeah.
And so I will return to the location later on and fill in Brandon and anyone else who might be investigating with us on my research. And that action in and of itself can sometimes, as you're reciting what you've learned, as you say people's names who probably haven't had their name said in a very long time, you might hear something, you might see something might shift or move.
Yeah.
See, and at this time, I'm alone in the dark asylum, but with blissful ignorance of all the stories. I don't know the imminent danger that I'm in.
Yeah, we split up a lot for groups that explore dark, possibly dangerous spaces.
So this is what I picture, guys. Mitch, you're sitting there and you're reading Abigail. Whatever Abigail is, the evil witch. Do not say the word Abigail. There's Brandon going see on a wall. Abigail. Abigail.
I'm being dragged off into dark corners. Yeah, it's the usual.
There's Mitch on his cell phone. Hey, Brandon, don't say Abigail.
He's just learning by doing. That's all that is.
Yeah. It's just two approaches to life, right? Research or dive in.
Oh man, that's great. I love that. So tell me about your experience. Have you guys had a really creepy or spooky experience when you've been on taking pictures, or Brandon, where you're like, whoa, okay, what's going on with my camera, or whatever your instrument?
So absolutely. I wasn't going to tell a camera story, but I do have a camera story. I'll save that one. I have two stories that I like to tell. The first one is actually from the Lincoln Tallman house. 12 years of waiting to get in, and the night we were there was active. It was very interesting. We were up on the second floor in the servants' quarters, and we were in the middle of an EVP session when Mitch said, hey man, I think there's a cold spot right here. So we threw down a mel meter, and we're kind of talking about it and noticing how the temperature is working. Of course, we come to the realization like it's just a draft from this window over here, which was a total bummer. But while this was happening, I had been trying to turn on my flashlight to get some light, and my flashlight would not turn on. It absolutely would not. I just put new batteries in it. I feel like if there's somebody doing paranormal investigator bingo, they just checked something off when I said that. But brand new batteries. So it's not turning on, and I was like, okay, we're fine. Like, yeah, I'm a paranormal investigator. The dark doesn't bother me. So clicked it off, put it in my back pocket, and we go on with the EVP session. And about 3 minutes later, all of a sudden, everybody has this really loud reaction. I was like, what? What's going on? The flashlight in my back pocket had turned on and was shining up toward the ceiling, lighting up the whole room. Wow. I was like, oh, this is wild. I know I clicked that off, because I was thinking, if this is something where the battery's draining, I don't want to just kill this battery. I'm going to turn this thing off. So, all right, I click it off again, and I put it on the stairs about 3 or 4 feet away from anybody in the room, and said, hey, if you can turn this on again, you can have it. We go back to the EVP session. We're at it for about 10 minutes, not even thinking about that anymore. And all of a sudden, we hear the click, and it turns on. So that flashlight now lives at the Lincoln Tallman. And yeah, that was one of the more interesting things that we've had happen.
Wow. That would be crazy to have that happen. Just all of a sudden, especially in the dark, and oh my God. That freaked me out.
For me, it was the fact that it was clicking. It wasn't like we didn't have the flashlight halfway turned on and off. It was like the usage flashlight for the investigation, and it wouldn't turn on, and then all of a sudden it's clicking on its own. It was wild.
Yeah. Right. And again, paranormal investigators tell me all the same thing, and you guys probably agree with this. It takes a lot of energy from spirit, whatever you want to call it, to do that. It's not easy. So they're expending their energy to make themselves known for whatever reason, right? And
I don't know that I could vouch that it takes a lot of energy, but it certainly doesn't happen often. If this was something that were happening every time we had a flashlight on an investigation, it'd be much less impressive. But because this is the only time I've ever seen that happen, it was wild. Yeah. And that's crazy. So, guys, this has been awesome so far, but we're going to even get better, because I got a little tease for you guys to get into our topic here today. Kind of like, you've been at that home and everything. We know houses can be predominantly the one that you want to check out as a paranormal investigator, or people lived in or whatever. So, guys, what if I told you there was a legal case where homeowners convinced a judge that their house was haunted, and the judge agreed, and this house now is, right now, I don't think it's right now, I have to do some more research on that. Maybe Mitch, you can help me with that later, as the only legal haunted house in the United States. Pretty cool, right? I would believe that you were talking about a place in New York.
Right. So let's get right to it here. I'm going to give you guys a little research and search, a little history and stuff behind it. And please just chime in anytime you want, because I sent you guys the link. So if there's something you're like, hey, open the link or whatever, or there's something that you looked at and went, oh, okay, cool. Let me bring that up. So Levita Place is an especially coveted cul-de-sac in the commuter town of Nyack, I believe, and this is in New York. So this house was built in 1890. It's a 3-story clapboard Victorian. When you think of that, guys, think of the generic cliche haunted house that's in every little kids movie. That's the house. Maybe you lived in that. You walked past that house in your neighborhood and went, "That house is creepy." It was. This is weird that they mentioned this in the article. It's constructed of horizontal wood paneling. I don't know what that means, but okay. It's set back behind a front lawn and elevated above the river with gorgeous views of it from almost every room and window. And it is. I will put some things on pictures of it once this comes out. And it's absolutely gorgeous house.
It is such a good looking house.
Yeah, it really is. It features a charming turret. So again, it's one of those things, has a little turret where the evil lady looks out the window at you when you're walking by. That's not really true in this one, but it has a picturesque wraparound porch and a fenced-in pool. Inside, there are 8 bedrooms. Holy crap, I didn't know that. And 4.5 bathrooms. Yeah, so it's pretty big. And when I tell you guys later how much this sold for, you will lose your mind. But despite the spaciousness, the home was designed to feel homey and comforting, with nooks and intimate smaller spaces carved out of larger rooms throughout. So, this is really a really cool house because it's a big house. I mean, 8 bedrooms, holy crap. Enough bathrooms for my kids. Stop bugging me when I'm in the bathroom. And spaces, like I said, carved out. So it's really comfy, even though it's a very huge house. It has stained glass windows, hardwood floors, and elaborate molding. So it's just this gorgeous Victorian house that you're like, oh man, I would love to live in this house. But little is known about the early occupants, Though, according to interviews with residents, it was likely home to a family. Well, unfortunately, that maybe didn't do some great things in that house. Maybe it was kind of, again, 1800s and stuff. So, the family dynamic was a lot different, and you treated kids a lot different, and your wives a lot different. That in today's world would not go by very well. And it was also occupied for a while in the 1960s. So, again, people don't really know about the history. Rumors that there were people who lived in there, that maybe people died in there, that there was abuse in there, that was, just terrible. It was a terrible energy in that house. And paranormal investigators like yourself would say, ka-ching, that's the house you want to go in because that's going to have the most residual or intelligent hauntings. So what went wrong? All right, here we go. So fortunately, one Levita isn't the site of, again, any highly publicized murders, bummer, or tragedies, bummer. So again, there's no one's like, this is where the guy killed his entire family and buried him under the floorboard. No, this is where someone threw the grandma in the freezer and locked it up and let grandma in the freezer. No, nobody's like, so everybody's like, why is this weird? So anyway, but again, the rumors of ghosts can be traced back to the mid-1970s. Reader's Digest, yes, I'm sorry for all you young people out there. You're like, what is Reader's Digest? Okay, Reader's Digest is what old people used to read. Your grandpa probably had it. We probably have that, guys. We probably look at Reader's Digest once in a while for research or something. So they had an article in it called Our Haunted House on the Hudson, written by resident Helen Ackley, wife to George Ackley. And she was the mother of 4, now adult children. In it, She wrote about the family's many ghostly roommates, which, while they lived, this is so weird, happily in their home. So, guys, let me stop there. So she's like saying, okay, there's no murders, there's no tragedies, but there's a bunch of ghosts in here, and we're all one big happy family. What do you guys think of that? Is that kind of interesting, right?
Well, I think it depends on the activity, right? If you're not experiencing anything too horrifying, it can be pretty easy to live in a haunted place.
Yeah, you think so? You think so, Mitch? If it was like, nice?
You know, it's something I've heard before. I can't say how many times off the top of my head, but a good few times that the houses involved or the places involved aren't necessarily the haunted places people will know about offhand. But, you know, if you ask somebody who lives in an old house or works in an old building, you know, whether or not their place is haunted, they'll tell you a story or two, and they'll usually cap it off with, but, you know, we live in harmony with them. You know, they don't bother us, we don't bother them. And so it is a thing that I have heard in the past, usually with people who are just trying to live in their houses or just trying to do their job at their place of work. That just happens to be a potential spooky place.
Yeah, I'd take a ghost over construction issues any day.
Yep.
Yeah. Oh, so would I. I hear you. Unbelievable. Did you guys get bummed out about that when you're talking to someone and they're being like, "Hey, I'm sorry, guys, but we live in harmony here. There's no murders. There's no." You guys go, "Oh,
no, not at all." I mean, the fact that there's a ghost story there and it's one that somebody isn't trying to brush aside, they're not afraid of it, that's really fantastic.
Yeah.
I think, frankly, as far as people interacting with hauntings right now, there's just so much fear about it, and it would be nice to move toward people understanding it more and exploring it in their own homes if it's happening.
Totally agree with that. It's refreshing. So back to the story here. The year was 1967. Her father had gotten a job in New York City, and the family had recently traded their Maryland farm for the derelict. Remember, guys, this was broken down and Victorian home just north of New York City. And then parents Helen and George Ackley were determined to restore the rundown, guys, 4,200 square foot house. That's a big house, guys. Yeah, good luck with that. On the Hudson River. By the way, they were planning to raise 4 children too. Okay, good luck with that one. Right? You got little kids running around while you're trying to fix the bathroom.
Oh, totally. That's gonna be tough.
Good luck. So like I said, it sat vacant for a number of years when they bought it. During the time, neighborhood children would say they saw faces in the windows. Over the time it was, vacant. It was the home that everybody goes, "I dare you, Billy. I dare you, Brandon and Mitch. I dare you. Double dare you. Go in the house." No way.
In there so fast.
No way. I won't do it for the bubblegum card.
You guys should see how many bathrooms they have in here.
Wow. It was great. Over the 2 decades in the home, so they did renovate it. Good for them. The Ackleys, so they lived there, 20 years. They had a bunch of experiences. And like I said, it was refreshing that they came out and they said, "Hey, we're okay. Everything's, So they hear the same mysterious, footsteps and voices. Doors and windows would fly open. On several occasions, they claimed they even had received visits from peaceful spirits wearing clothes from centuries past. And I'll get into that in a little more detail here. The paranormal was just part and parcel of their new home. So again, kind of like you, Brandon, just kind of okay, I'm just kind of accepting it. But like I said, one of the biggest things is that they just were really weirded out about it at first, but then just kind of were like, okay. Now, one of the ghosts in here I thought was really interesting. Let me go back here. They saw 3 ghosts, okay? And he described one of the ghosts, 2 of the ghosts were a married couple. that she claims lived in the 18th century, and the other ghost was a Navy lieutenant in the American Revolution. Okay. If you guys have heard of the show Ghost, which is on CBS, I don't know if you guys watch that show at all. It's comedy.
Very funny.
Kind of the same thing. There's these people in there, and they're all from different eras, and they kind of just go around, and only one person can see them. But actually, everyone could see them in this house. So they were like, okay, this is really cool. They got somebody from the American Revolution. They got some other ghosts who were married, and it looks like, okay, all right. And remember, this was off the Hudson. So this was, in the American Revolution, the Hudson River was, that was the big time. The British and the Americans fought quite a bit on the Hudson. So, like everyone would do, in 1993, Miss Ackley said, I'm going to contact a paranormal researcher. His name was Bill Merrill. I don't know if that rings a bell to you guys. And a medium, Glenn Johnson. Ring a bell for either one of you. Yeah.
No.
I guess they were big time in the 80s and 90s.
Fair enough.
Nah, ring a bell for me either. Who claimed to have already made contact with two of the spirits at the house. The pair met with Helen and disclosed that the couple were likely the poltergeist of Sir George and Lady Margaret, who lived in the region in the 18th century. So you got these fancy ghosts, which, oh my God, what do you guys think of that? How would you like to have really fancy, probably British aristocrat ghosts in your house?
You're just like chowing down on freezer pizza and just appalled in the corner are the spirits of your home. You're having your third gremlin night.
I would be rubbing it in their faces that I have indoor plumbing and they don't.
I love it, Mitch. I love it.
Oh,
You're
that's
scoundrel, Mitch. You're a scoundrel. Or whatever they said, right? Probably drinking tea with their pinkies out, and grabbing the tea. And,
you're like, oh my God, he craps inside.
He craps? Oh, the devil. He must be the devil. I love it. So I just think that's great. I've heard a little bit of this in vicinity of, like, Sarah talks a lot about in Pennsylvania Paranormal and stuff like that, where there's a lot of revolutionary ghosts and all these other people, especially Civil War too. I just think that's right. So they said, okay, you got this fancy schmancy couple in here. And then they started looking at different things. And then they came to a conclusion after they did their, with the medium, Glenn and good old Bill here. They said, okay, this is what they found out that lived in the area. So some good research. So they said the couple lived in the area. They were British. They died in the 1750s. And that's pretty much what they came up with. Now, in 1995, Merrill and Johnson published a book about their findings entitled Sir George, the Ghost of Nyack. And basically, they said they have seen George sitting in midair. How uncouth. He watching. So one of the claims was he saw when they were painting and stuff. Excuse me, back up here. They claimed Sir George was sitting in midair watching them paint. So he'd like sit there and watch them paint. Okay, I don't understand that. Like painting. Okay, one of the accounts was from the couple who lived there said, I was on an 8-foot step ladder and I asked Sir George if he approved of what we were doing to the house, if the colors were to his liking. He smiled and he nodded his head. So
this goes back to it. I mean, we were talking about ghosts and fashion earlier, man. They're trendsetters.
Yeah, so the Ackleys were literally going, Sir George, what do you think of the sea breeze color I'm using for the bedroom? What cool.
Neutrals.
Trolls. And that monster going inside to the bathroom.
Yeah, don't invite him over.
Don't invite him over. I just love that, guys. You're sitting there and you're painting, And you look over and there's Sir George floating like out of a
Classic
Scooby-Doo thing or something. Yeah. And you're like, what do you think? He's like, I like it. The eggshell really brings out the room. Love it. So the Ackley's
have you considered
Cynthia,
an accent wall?
so his daughter Cynthia, which she was a child when she was mostly in this house, but she would reportedly be woken up most mornings by one of the spirits shaking her bed. When Cynthia, so she'd be waking up for school basically. So the spirit would be like, "Wake up, Cynthia! Time for school." How do they know that? Like, you guys have a theory on that? How would they know that she has to go to school?
That's tough. If I heard somebody else say that, I would probably say, I think you're just waking yourself up before your alarm. That's like the skeptic in me would come out at that point and be like, I don't know, that one's pretty wild.
Yeah. But what do you think, Mitch? Anything on being woken up?
Well, if we take the concept of the intelligent haunting and apply it to this, potentially Sir George or one of the other spirits, then it would simply be a matter of watching the family's routine and seeing that, well, the parents get her up this time every day to, disappear onto the strange yellow carriage that doesn't have any horses.
Yeah, right.
And so, maybe I should lend a hand. Maybe I should help out. Right. And the way they help out is by being that, make sure you're up, make sure you're ready for school by X o'clock.
Right.
And that lends credence to the house being in harmony. I mean, that makes sense.
Right? Like, it wasn't mean. Like, right. Yeah.
Yeah. The new family asks the ghosts about accents and wall colors, and the ghosts help out by keeping the kids on time.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Well, now I want to know how I get a ghostly alarm clock.
Yeah, right? How do we figure this out? Well, you'll find out. You'll find out later what you'll need. So when Cynthia was out for school on spring break, she announced loudly before going to bed that she did not have to go to school in the morning and would like to sleep in. I just think that's great. Hey, sir, blah, blah. Don't wake me up. Spring break. Spring break? I don't know. So the next morning, she was not awoken, guys.
That's awesome. Ghost listens. That's fantastic.
Ghost listen. So Helen Ackley reported to the neighbors that she would hear phantom footsteps and slamming doors. Her grandchildren, so like I said, she lived in it quite a bit. Her grandchildren also, this is crazy, allegedly, let's use allegedly, guys, received trinkets such as rings and like necklaces from the ghost. These trinkets would later vanish. So, yeah, I'm not going with that one. How about you guys? Yeah, you go with that one? All right, guy. Okay.
I'm not sure. I mean, were they real trinkets? Like, did these things actually exist? And if so, where did they come from?
Yeah, I don't know. So it's even weirder because I'm like, where's this? Yeah, Helen's daughter, Helen Ackley's daughter-in-law, was gifted disappearing coins in the same manner. And Cynthia is an adult. Okay. Okay. And this is the weirdest thing and the most, I don't know. You guys, I just got to read it. Claimed Cynthia as an adult too. Not only would get coins, but she claimed to receive silver sugar tongs.
Oh,
okay. Like they would just I don't know, guys. Like, what are you doing? Like, you just
there's some other haunted house next door that's like, where are our sugar tongs?
Yeah. And it's so descriptive. It's like, it's not like sugar tongs. It's like silver, like really nice one.
That's
Right.
I
That's
think
wild.
the Victorian
Hmm.
ghosts being polite about correcting you. Like, hey, we saw you scoop sugar out of the bag with a cereal spoon. This is how it's supposed to be.
Aw, the
This
peasants are
one's
trying.
the peasants are trying.
How quaint.
How quaint. Look at them. They filthy animals. I love them. And that guy in the toilet still pissing me off. So Helen Ackley claimed that her son came eyeball to eyeball with the figure of the Revolutionary Navy lieutenant. So okay. I don't know how that would work other than the son has to be like, I'm guessing this guy's probably in the Revolutionary War. I think people were like, in that era, were like 5'5", 5'6". They were smaller than us.
Mhm.
So he has to be that height. And it doesn't explain what happened. Like, I don't know if he was coming out of the bathroom and he was pissed. And, the Navy lieutenant was pissed and they just went, hey, like, I don't know. What do you guys think?
I mean, that's wild. I mean, that's how it happens, though, in a lot of different accounts of paranormal activities. It's when both parties kind of seem like they're a little startled about it. It happens when you're not expecting it, and you just sort of drink it in. And by the time you have like analyzed the situation and figured out that it's something, it's already gone. So
yeah, right.
Yeah, and the point on how exactly they came eye to eye on what is likely to be a substantial height difference is an interesting point. One thing that stood out to me about the claim of the Navy lieutenant in the Revolutionary War is my researcher brain hatched a question. When was the United States Navy founded? And I don't have a computer in front of me.
I don't have one either. I don't know if you guys can Google it really quick or something. I don't.
Yeah. Brandon's on the case.
I'm
But
on the case. March 27th, 1794.
1794 is after the Revolutionary War already ended. We didn't have a Navy in the Revolutionary War. And that was
if it is, figured 1776 to, as the center point for Revolutionary to 1794, the style probably didn't change a lot in those 20 years.
Yeah.
No, likely not. So, you could say a colonial era Navy sailor and likely be correct, but to suggest a Revolutionary War veteran who was also a member of the Navy at the time is historic impossibility.
Yeah.
And this is why I like to go on road trips with Mitch.
Yes, I see.
It's a built-in history lesson.
I love it. So, also, you probably asked, well, other people are in the house, right? What did they say? It's just the family's word against everybody else's. So Mark Kavanaugh, he was engaged to the daughter Cynthia, and he lived in the home briefly. And he said, yes, I heard conversations, I heard footsteps, slamming doors. He goes, he didn't really see any like Navy lieutenants or couples walking down holding hands or anything like that. But he said, yes, there's something going on here. And, this guy's like a total skeptic. He said, I didn't believe in ghosts till I got there. And he goes, now I do. So one other thing too, Cynthia, when she was younger, she was recorded. This is one of my favorite encounters in the house. So Cynthia, when she was younger, she's falling asleep and everything like that. Then she heard her bedroom door open, a creak, floorboards creak and everything. And she said, my back was to the edge of the bed. Suddenly, the edge of my bed in the midsection depressed down. So in other words, somebody got on the bed. And I felt something lean against me. I went literally, this is a quote from Cynthia, I went literally stone stiff. I was speechless and could hardly move. I was able to twist my neck around enough to see a womanly figure in a soft dress through the moonlight from the bay windows. I felt like she was looking straight at me. After about a minute, the presence got up and walked back out of the room. I finally relaxed enough to get up, out of my sleep. And just she claims, okay, it was nothing again. She didn't feel like it was a nightmare. She didn't feel like it was like a demon jumping on the bed or nothing. It was just kind of like someone just wanted to lay with her for a little bit. One of the women there. And I'm like, okay, to me, what makes sense to me is she's a young girl. This woman died before she probably could have children, probably wanted children, wanted a family. And she probably just wanted to be like a mom and just lay down with her daughter or someone resembling her daughter and just just see what it feels like. What do you guys think of that? I think it's kind of touching, in a certain kind of way.
Yeah, a little bit. I would personally be terrified if it happened to me, but touching in its own way.
Yeah. What do you think, Mitch? Do you think it's kind of a touching story, or would you be terrified?
Depends how big the bed is.
Yeah, probably a twin bed, like a kid.
That's crowding me. I need my space. But if I've got a queen or a king, well, you can take a rest, and it probably won't bother me.
Right. At least it wasn't the man. When I was doing research, I'm like, okay, it's not the man. We're not getting into like some really unnerving.
Back to the living in harmony point is.
Yeah. So it was just right. It was just living in harmony. So one of the main things is, again, like I said, this was, happy, no problems and stuff. But eventually the Ackleys, decided to sell the house because of their empty nesters. It's a 4,000 square foot house, people. I mean, come on. You live in a 4,000 square feet with two people. That would drive me crazy. And, enough with the ghost, right? I don't know how you guys feel about it. Would you guys move once your kids moved out and everything? You'd be like, I don't know.
I don't know. That's tough to say. Having never owned an 8-bedroom home, I don't know that I'd be qualified to give an answer. I have a feeling right now, if I had an 8-bedroom home, I'd just be really excited about it and keep it for a long time.
Yeah.
Ghosts and all.
Yeah. So Strand would eventually achieve infamy in the early 1990s after Ackley's put it on the market. When the buyers learned now this is important, everyone. When the buyers learned the home's supernatural history, they tried to back out of the deal. Mm-hmm. So back in the 90s, you did not have to tell it was haunted. Okay, and who would believe you anyway, right? Like if someone, a bunch of ghosts in here, you'd be like, yeah, whatever, pal. So to recover their deposit, the buyers, they sued and they went to court. And for the first time, established that a property was haunted in a published opinion. Okay, so this is the first time someone said, this is haunted, get me out of the deal. Like, that's weird, right? That's just really strange. And this is commonly known as, I love it, guys, the opinion in the law books, and this is in a law book, the Ghostbusters ruling.
Who are you going to call?
Come on, guys. You got to love that. Like, oh my God. That's just great. So they established the Ackley residence as the only legal haunted house in America. Now, this case, believe it or not, has been taught in law schools across the country. And while disclosure have been a little bit, largely, greatly by state. In other words, do you have to tell somebody your house is haunted? In some states, yes. In other states, no. But there is precedent on the books that if you were to move into a house and say, this house is haunted, I want back out of the deal, you probably could get it. So, like I said, you have to, set a precedent, or you must disclose to buyers in some place. Now, one of the things was, when they were doing this, they were talking about the judge. So this went in a case that I looked up in Wikipedia and some other law books. And one of the biggest things with the judge is they had to prove that it was haunted. And the lawyers for the defense were like, how in the hell can we do that? What is it to do? Get the revolutionary people and the fancy out here, bring them to court? You can't do that.
You just start scooping the sugar wrong. They'll bring you tongs, and you can prove it.
Right. Yeah. So they were just like, okay. And by the way, the buyers, excuse me, I forgot to bring them up. The buyers one was a Wall Street trader named Jeffrey Stambrowski, sounds like a good football name, and his wife Patrice. And one of the offer, by the way, too, was they put down a down payment of $32,500. So at that time, the house was worth a little bit, pretty good, not too bad. But one of the things too is then the prosecutors were like, well, you didn't tell them it was haunted, and now they don't want to live here. And they were using things like if you move into a house and you didn't tell them you have rats in the basement, right?
Mm-hmm.
They were kind of like saying that. So they were using like, well, it's kind of like moving to a house and you have rats in the basement, you didn't disclose it, or your foundation is sinking into the ground. You know what I mean? Like real world things. And again,
one of my favorite things in the notes on the actual article was that one of the arguments they used was that there were undisclosed tenants in the building that were the ghosts. They were referencing the ghosts. That's so wild.
Right. Yeah, and that's what I was saying. They couldn't bring how do you do that? You can't be like, here's some squatters in the basement, right? You just can't, or you find a dead body underneath the floorboards or something. You're like, yeah, okay. So the case, goes in there. And again, they were going to court. And this is the biggest thing. So I'm not going to go too much into it, but just to kind of give you an idea, you can read about it. And this is the argument. The seller deliberately fostered the public belief that her home was possessed. So his ruling that they came out to say like, okay, they was with the supernatural, and they already told people. Now remember, they told the people who are buying it that it was, and they didn't believe them. So the Stambrowskis, whatever their name was, I'm like, guys, they kind of told you what was going on, and then the Stambrowskis tried to get a discount. It's just this ridiculous thing. But at the end of the day, this is the case you can look up. Stambrowski, whatever, versus Ackley, 1991. Like I said, known as the Ghostbusters ruling. It went to the New York Supreme Court Appellate Division because like I said, it went to the top. And basically the court held, this is what they upheld, that a house which the owner had previously advertised as haunted by ghosts was legally haunted for the purpose of an action for rescission brought by the subsequent purchaser of the house. Because of the unique holding as a matter of law, this house is haunted. So that is typically in textbook. I kind of skipped through the legal mumbo jumbo because we're not a true crime and legal podcast, but you can go and read it, and it's crazy. So yes, you do, for the most part, out of all this, like I said, do have to disclose, but in other states you don't. But it's just kind of this mishmash of laws that I don't know, that most people would be like, okay, probably tell you, unless it was like really bad, I guess. I don't know. So what do you guys think about that? If you guys moved into a house, would you want to be told it's haunted? I'm guessing yes.
Absolutely. I'd be excited about it though, so I don't know that it would be the expected reaction. I know that a lot of places have to disclose when like there's been a crime or a death in the house in the last like 3 years. And I always find that really interesting. It's not necessarily is the house haunted, but like did stuff go down here?
Mitch, what do you think?
Well, as also an impassioned purveyor of housing law, alongside haunted thing, I gotta say I would want it disclosed because that's interesting. I would actively seek a haunted house out to purchase, but I otherwise agree with the ruling as it as it was shaken out in court. because a haunting might not necessarily be a material condition, but advertising of a haunting certainly is a material condition. And whether or not I'm buying the house to live in or to do anything else with, it's something I would want to know, because particularly when you're publicizing that your house is haunted, and I think that's what the determination on the legal level was getting at, is if you're publicizing that your house is haunted, that you're reporting that it's haunted, that people have a reasonable expectation to know that it is haunted.
Yep.
Yeah.
You might get visitors in the night. You might have people staked out outside your house at strange times trying to get a glimpse, and that is certainly a material condition that would
might have some random guy try to reach out to you for 12 years to get in and let him investigate.
Yeah, and a great corollary example of how important that precedent actually is, you can find in the Breaking Bad house, which, if you're a big fan of the show Breaking Bad, there's the main house that the people live in on the show is an actual house in Albuquerque, New Mexico. And all it really was for establishing shots in the show. But people who love that show constantly show up at this house, constantly pull pranks and gags that the owners obviously hate. They live there. And so if they were to ever sell that house, or if they did ever sell that house, that would absolutely have to be something that they disclosed, because that is a massive factor in what it means to own and manage that property. And a haunting is the same way. If it's been publicized, if it's out there, the people need to know about it, because there are steps you could take, like putting up a fence to keep, interested ghost hunters off your property if you didn't want it. It's certainly valuable information to know.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, they argued again, like I said, I didn't go through all the legal mumbo jumbo, but they argued again, like this was in a Reader's Digest article.
Yep.
They talked about it, the newspapers, they brought it up. It was no. Like, so when you bought the house and we told you that, and then you went, I think you're full of crap. Well, that's on you. It's like, hey, every July, the basement floods, guys. Just want to let you know. Yeah, I don't believe you. And then July comes around and basement's flooding.
Guess I should have believed you.
I told you, right? So this is the great part, guys. We need to get into haunted houses real estate, because
there we go.
Some money. We can make some money. So
I like that. Expect that section to appear on our website in the next month or so.
My other job is in sales and marketing, guys. So I'll help you out. I'll be the guy in the suit, and I'll be like, "Hey, come to this house." Yeah, there's some demons jumping on the bed and skeletons coming out of the. Come on.
Exactly what you're paying for.
Exactly what you're paying for. Awesome. So this gentleman, his name was Adam Brooks, because this is the sale. How eventually it's sold. And when you hear about this, you guys will be like, "Yes, we definitely have to do this." Adam Brooks, he wrote and directed the film Definitely Maybe. He bought the property from Helen years ago, but he reportedly never, ever had any paranormal experiences in the 2 decades he lived there. So he's like, nothing happened. So he's like, whatever. But in 2012, he sold the home for, hold on to your hats. Oh, you got a hat there, Brandon. Hold on to your glasses, Mitch. $1.725 million.
That's upstate.
Okay. Yeah.
Yes. To pop singer, I don't know who this is because I don't listen to it, but my daughter would. Ingrid Michaelson.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
She wrote the song "The Way I Am." Don't know, but if you do know, she told 1.7 mil. She told the New York Post it was a magical home with an unbeatable view. Then Nancy Blake Weber, who is a real estate agent for this transaction and subsequent sales of the home, says Michelson got a kick out of the ghost story. So she said there was a fun element of owning the only legal haunted house. And she said there's a certain type of people who's attracted toward that thing. So about 3 years later, singer and rapper, I'm going to butcher this, Matishu, I don't know.
Matisyahu.
Thank you. I'm King Without a Crown. Mitch saved me. I told you I'd butcher it. He bought it, not too much more, but still enough, $1.77 million. He did not experience any poltergeist either. As of, the home was last sold in March, like I said, 2021 for $1.795 million. The new owners are in the creative field. They are renovating the home, says the real estate Weber. The 5-bedroom, 4.5 bath was valued as of this, I guess, recently, $1.864 million.
Well, they're clearly listening to the ghosts on the renovation advice. That's what keeps pushing the price up.
Yeah, attract that upscale Victorian clientele.
Yes. Yes, and I wonder if Sir, whatever his name is like listening to the music, whether it's rap music or pop music, and just going, I don't like it. Can you see them in a studio? They're like, what do you think, sir? Whatever. He's like, I don't like the beats.
I mean, he co-produced her last album, so.
Guys, this was, I thought, an awesome story. I just kind of skimmed through it a little bit. There's a whole bunch of great things you guys can check out, but you get the basics of it. It's the only legal haunted house as of, I think, right now. I'm sure there will be others. I know the Conjuring house is having a multitude of problems. There's a lot of stuff. The Conjuring house people are pissed at the new owner because she's being not very good with it. So I don't know if she will ever get that associated with that, being a legally haunted house, but she bought that house, I think, for $1.67 million. It was some crazy number she bought it for. And a lot of people go to visit there are like, I don't know, getting on her case about the way she treats people who go to her house and are saying that house is not haunted. That was all made up. Just like the Amityville Horror House, which yours truly almost bought.
Really?
Wow.
And I just really quickly, I've told this story so many times. My listeners were like, I've heard this. So it was on for sale up for sale for years ago at a reasonable price of $400 and some $1,000.
Sure.
Years ago, mind you.
Okay.
So I saw it. I flipped out. I immediately called the real estate agent. Long story short, she goes, it's not haunted, Joe. Don't waste your time. I said I want it, and I'm a paranormal investigator. Well, not really, but kind of. She was like, sorry to burst your bubble. It's not haunted. It takes a lot of work. She goes, if you want haunted homes, I will get you one. But she said, this is not haunted. I'm sorry to break it to you. She also said it's really annoying. Like Mitch, like you said, people showing up at the house all hours of the morning.
Yep.
Paranormal investigators calling me for 12 years to try to get into the house.
Yep.
Yeah. And she said it's annoying. The people who live there have never seen anything. She knew the DeFales. They were a freaky, drugged out, really bad family, she said. Yeah. And so I was in negotiations to put a down payment on it and fly out there. And at that time, after I heard it's not haunted and it's a pain in the ass, and my wife was like, do we want to take the kids and move to upstate New York in Amityville? I really don't want to hunt. And I'm like, okay. So they kind of like, I just kind of got bummed out and kind of said, no, thanks. And she was like, totally understand. Because I don't want my kids at the time were like 4 and 6. So could you imagine them like looking out the window and there's some weirdo, not like you guys, but some guys staring out and hear them blood curdling scream come out, you know what I mean? Like, no.
Oh, totally.
Or some guy breaking into the house and you know what I'm saying? I'm like, nah, no,
it's not worth it. It's not worth it at that point.
Yeah.
Even though I've had other podcast guests tell me, hey, why didn't you just have people charge them, like the Conjuring house, charge them a crap load of money to come out and not seeing anything. I'm like, okay. So, guys, I've taken enough of your time. You guys have been awesome. Thank you so much for being on the podcast. I love it.
Thank you, John.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
You guys like I said, you have a podcast coming out with Paranormal in Pennsylvania, correct?
Yeah.
Book. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. Where else can they find you? I will put all the links and everything like that. Anything else, other
Absolutely.
than Instagram?
HauntedUS.com is our home on the web. And if you look up Haunted US on just about any social platform, we have a presence there too.
Yep.
Awesome. Thank you so much, guys. I love you have back on the show here. I'm trying to do something in October to have some of my former guests on. Maybe we do a roundtable discussion or something. I'll let you know. And if you're available, that would be awesome. But again,
Absolutely.
thank you so much. I really appreciate this. And before we end the show, we end it two different ways. We say hi to your ghost because, you might have a ghost in your house. You want to say, hello, ghost.
Hello.
Yeah.
Howdy.
And then we say, stay spooky. Thanks, Mitch. Thanks, Brandon.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Take care. See ya.
Bye.